Happy New Year, man. This is first episode of 2026. I'm pretty stoked, man. We've made it this far. How was your New Year's, man? Anything crazy?
New Year's, actually, yeah, I had a really good last week here. New Year's Eve went to the Griffins game, and of course, I got the pleasure of being at one of the three games that the Griffins lost. They lost in overtime, so you can blame that one on me being in the building. And then 3 nights prior, I went and saw the Red Wings face the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that was a really fun game to be a part of. So I'd say I've had a good little week since we've recorded. How about you, Evan?
Damn, dude. You show up and the Griffins lose? Like they had like one loss before you showed up. Like there's something wrong there, man. Maybe stop
Yeah.
going to those games for us.
They're not gonna let me in the building anymore.
Yeah, New Year's wasn't too exciting out here. As you get older, man, it's more of a. I'll tell you what, though. My wife and I actually made it to. We made it to the 12 o'clock ball drop in LA, but we usually only make it to the 9 o'clock, and we go with the East Coast time. But for some reason, we made it this year, and I don't know why. It might have been I was mixing the Red Bull with the vodka. That could have been one of the things. Other than that, just kids' birthday parties. The kids are off school. I just got back from Sky Zone, dude. Like, do you know what Sky Zone is? An absolute that's like when I go to hell, that's what I picture it looks like. Because there's just kids screaming everywhere, jumping up and down, and my kid, they're running all over the place. And even when I have my eyes on her, I still lose her. And there's thousands of kids in there. It's just like a cesspool. I think it's probably because I'm a germaphobe too, but it's like just kids screaming and wiping their faces everywhere. And it's like, that stuff was fun when I was a kid, but not so much anymore. So
Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast.
welcome to episode 66 of the Flying Octopus Podcast, the Mario Lemieux edition. And, no Red Wing has ever worn number 66. I just found that out this week, even before Mario Lemieux, which was kind of interesting. I'm your host, Evan Sabrin, joined by my co-host, Devin Little. Tony is still on newborn duty, but will be back with us very soon. We hope Quinn and the Wolak family had a great Happy New Year's and are doing well. On today's episode, we'll recap Detroit's past 3 games and also talk about what appeared to be Simon Edvinsson's coming out party last Sunday versus the Leafs. We'll break down what he means to this team and discuss what his next contract may look like coming down the line. The Olympics are just over a month away, and Team USA rosters were released this morning. And I know, Devin, that there's someone that got omitted, and you're not going to be happy about it. So Devin's going to break that down for us. But before we get started today, I'd like to remind everyone where you can find us. Give us a follow on Twitter at Flying Octopod, and check us out on YouTube at The Flying Octopod. And you can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. At the time of this recording, the Red Wings lead the Eastern Conference with 52 points in 42 games. Detroit slayed some demons by going 11-3-1 in the month of December, the most wins in a single calendar month since March of 2010. So starting to feel like we're in uncharted territory here. This past Sunday, Detroit topped the Leafs 3-2 in OT in what was probably one of the most entertaining wins of the season. Moritz Seider opened scoring for the Red Wings with his 7th on the year. His offensive game is really starting to blossom. He's on pace for a career year in points. That game was it really took a sick turn. And I know you were at the game, Devin, so I can't wait to get your thoughts on this. When we saw Simon Edvinsson take that one-timer right off the knee from Morgan Rielly there on that power play, I could just feel my heart sink. Because I think it's very easy to say that Simon Edvinsson is arguably one of the top 3 or 4 most important Red Wings, I would say, at this point. Because I think this season goes in a lot of trouble if him and Moritz Seider go down. Because we all talk about how the bottom pairing defensemen have kind of not worked out or been to there. You have Axel Sandin Pellikka still learning, but I got pretty scared for a second seeing Edvinsson go down, and then to watch him fight and battle and block another shot with his stick was just that was something amazing. And I couldn't help but think about all the chatter these past couple of weeks. If Simon Edvinsson was supposed to be a part of that deal for the Quinn Hughes trade speculation, a lot of people on social media were saying that he might have been the holdup. And a game like that, his coming out party, and then he comes out and scores the OT winner. And I mean, I can't imagine how electric it was there. Devin, talk to me.
The only way that could have been more fitting is if that was their first game after Quinn Hughes got traded. Just like the exclamation point of like, nah, Simon Edvinsson's a Red Wing. That was first and foremost just a really fun game to be a part of. Obviously, you have the traditional, it's an original six matchup, right? The Little Caesars Arena was damn near 50-50 red and blue in the crowds. Basically, my entire aisle was blue. And you have the "Let's go Red Wings, go Leafs, go Leafs, go" chant. You had a game where the Leafs score, the Red Wings tie it up, the Leafs score again, the Red Wings tie it up. There's a little bit of feistiness. It was a good game. I mean, it was that the crowd was into it. It was just a fun. I'm glad I got to go to that game. Basically, from the Edvinsson perspective, I'm right there with you. To see him, to once you kind of realize that it's him who's on the ground, it's just immediate like, oh no, like that could. Your point about him maybe being a top 3 or 4 most important Red Wing, that's dead on, because I mean, we've seen Seider basically do it by himself the last few years, but I feel like what's maybe helping the Red Wings be where they are this season is that he doesn't have to do it by himself this season. So then to kind of go back to where it's all on Mo, that would have been a bitter pill to swallow. And yeah, I mean, we all saw the celebration when he scored the overtime winner, right? And we saw Patrick Kane cracking up behind him too. It's one thing to like, for us to see that game and be like, oh man, Edvinsson had a great game. It's another to like know that he knew he had a real good game. Like that was a big overtime winner against a division rival, big win coming off of a loss against Carolina. He himself, blocked the shot, made an additional block, just a huge effort from that guy. His quote after the game, the legs a long way from the heart. The dudes, listen, when I was picking whose centennial jersey I wanted to get, I was down to 2, and it was Marco Kasper and Simon Edvinsson, and that was a game where I no offense to Marco Kasper, but I kind of maybe wished I picked a different jersey, because that would have been a great jersey to wear to that game. But
yeah, dude, that interview with Daniela Bruce where he pulls out the line from the movie Miracle, I mean, that's probably right there is when my first man crush developed with him. It's great, and I'm going to play it for you guys right now.
I hit a couple of nerves, so I didn't feel my leg there for a while, but it's hockey. It's just it's a long way from the heart. So yeah, just go out there and keep battling.
So yeah, I mean, amazing night. So lucky to be there, man. Those moments are things you're going to remember. I felt like that's a game that when you look back at this season, and we're hoping that it's a successful one, that's one of those games you remember. It's a long season, and the Red Wings are at the halfway point now, but I think that game, that moment, that's something you're going to remember for him for a long time. So anyway, we're going to get to more on him shortly. Talbot stopped 25 of 27 in that one. Red Wings 3-0 versus the Leafs this season, as the Laughs struggled to adapt to life without Mitch Marner. Wednesday, Detroit hosted the Jets at the LCA and came away with the 2-1 win on goals from Dylan Larkin, who got his 21st on the power play in the first period, and then Mason Appleton, who notched his 5th of the year in the first as well. Winnipeg scored late in the third, but the Wigs held on. John Gibson stopped 23 of 24 in this one, continues his hot streak. Gibby's starting to look pretty good here, and we're feeling a lot better about him back there in the crease. Thursday, back-to-back. Now, here's where I got to stop down here real quick. Back-to-back on New Year's, like, and a traveling one, too. You play at home, and then, you got to get on a plane and then go play. Like, I'm not a fan of that. I know they got a few days off for the break, but that's just unnecessary. So, I have a hard time calling anyone out on this team, and also, again, the Red Wings are in first place, so you can't get upset over every loss that are going to happen. Wings went 2 for 8 on the power play in that one. Sid the Kid got 2 goals in the first period. Like, that guy is, man, I think we've talked about this before, you and I, Devin. It's like, we're, earlier in his career, like, we all call Sid the crybaby and we, the rivalry, just hated him. But now you can't but help appreciate how that guy, like, he's going to go down as one of the greats, one of the all-time greats. And the fact to see him still doing it, I know he's like a workout warrior, like training regimen stuff wise, but it's pretty impressive to see what he's still doing at his age. It's like, it's kind of similar to what Patrick Kane's doing in that their game is so much more, mental than it is physical. And they still see the ice well, they still have the hands, and he got the Pens on the board up 2-0 in the first. JVR cut the lead to 1 on his 10th of the year. Absolute piss missile from Marco Kasper at the end of the first there. And JV got a stick on. It was good to see Kasper. I was hoping that was Kasper's goal there because we all know he needs one. Now that I figured out that you got his Kasper jersey, no wonder he's struggling now. That's the Devin curse. But no, I mean, JVR, dude, like, has this been a revelation or what? I mean, this guy, 10 goals already. He's on pace for 20 goals. If I would have told you JVR would have 10 goals at the halfway point, on pace for at least 20, what would you have said?
I would have said that I guess it's 2015 again. And even that's, maybe overshooting it a little bit, but I wasn't expecting this for sure. I was, if you would have told me he'd have 15 goals at the end of the season, I'd be like, all right, solid season from JVR. To like even have a possibility that we're looking at 20 from him. I mean, that's it, and like it's not just 20 goals, because obviously that's huge too, because he's in the bottom 6. You need that depth scoring, but it's also how he scores his goals. He's always in tight. He's getting those deflections. He's scoring those Thomas Holmstrom types goals, basically. And I don't, Michael Rasmussen tried to fill that role for some time. I remember Oscar Sundqvist having like a little bit of success, but not like a ton in that role too. They've auditioned a lot of guys to try to be that type of player, and it's almost a shame that Van Riemsdyk is definitely in the back 9, because he looks like he could fill this role for a few more years and be very effective at it. But I think every good power play needs to have a guy that can do that. Mind you, he spends most of his time in the second power play unit, but regardless, I think that's kind of what helps the second unit chip in from time to time. And then when he's not on the power play, he's still getting those greasy goals. You got to have the guys on the bottom 6 that are able to produce those types of chances and those types of goals. And to see JVR doing it at the rate that he's doing it, I mean, you just got to kind of sit back and enjoy it, because I don't know that anybody was predicting that he would produce at the rate he currently is.
Yeah, I think, obviously he's not here long term. He's towards the end of his career, but I think he so far could be Yzerman's best veteran signing that he brought along, to help with the younger kids. And he's just been a breath of fresh air. He's done everything and more you can ask for the role he's been put into. And he's been fun to watch. Weird shit going on in this one. Kopp scored on a puck, taking a crazy ass bounce on a dump in by Ben Sherratt there. Later, right on Andrew Kopp's stick, wide open net for Kopp. Luckily, he buried that one. Williams thought they had tied it on a goal by Lucas Raymond in the third, but Emmett Finney was like literally a centimeter offsides. Like literally a centimeter offsides. It's one of those goals that that didn't really affect the play, but at the end of the day, these honest officials, they've got to review that. But you'd love to see Red Wings Twitter just blowing up. Well, that should have counted. It didn't affect the play. Yeah, that's not how it works, though. It's always going to go to that coach's challenge. But Red Wings lost that one in OT. I don't think they played terrible. Again, coming off these back-to-backs, around the holidays, just it's not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. The NHL schedule makers they're a different breed of people, and I'm just. I'm not into that. They give these guys a break. You got the Olympics coming up in a month. Back-to-backs on New Year's. These guys travel enough. They're on the road. You miss time with your families, your kids. I don't think that was necessary. I'm not really going to fault Todd McClellan and the Red Wings on this one. But, DeBrincat scored late, tied at 3 with his 21st, ended a 7-game scoreless drought for him, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. to when we get to the Olympic rosters, because I'm curious if you think that scoreless drought he kind of went through had any impact on him not making Team USA's roster. OT, Letang ends it, piss missile of his own. Kind of saw that one coming. It was a pretty good shot. Can't really blame Talbot on that one. But all in all, it was a pretty good week for Detroit. You can't really complain. Top of the Atlantic. They're right up there for the top of the Eastern Conference. I can't say I envisioned this. I know I predicted earlier this season that I did not think that this was a playoff team yet. But man, the more you watch it, the more and more you start to see what Yzerman's plan was. You know, you take so much heat for the Yzer plan and people calling him out, but I think this is finally, we're seeing things that we really been waiting to see.
Where do you stand on the Red Wings making the playoffs this year? Because you've mentioned before that they're doing all these things to kind of lighten the blow of another disappointing season. Have they done enough to kind of help you change your tune a little bit?
Yeah, but it's like 2 years ago when you and I first started doing shows, like do you remember like just how upbeat we were and like, oh, it's happening, it was that Steve Carell meme, it's happening. And yeah, and then I was just like utter heartbreak. So I feel like I'm that jilted lover who's like afraid to get into that relationship again because I've been hurt. That's where I'm at. Like I'm not ready to like say that. And it's also hard because of the conference. I mean, these guys aren't losing. Look at Buffalo. They just won 9 in a row. They're in a playoff spot now. It's crazy. Just the whole fucking division is over 500. And come on, like why can't these guys suck too? But you can't. You got to be happy with where they're at. You can't deny the facts that I don't think anyone saw, with them inserting this many young players into the lineup. It's really hard to envision that they would be coming together this well to the point that they're a team that's in first place in the Atlantic.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm glad that you. It seems like there's optimism there. You're just not ready to commit yet, and I respect that. I respect that. Maybe we'll have to check in like around the trade deadline to see if you're all in yet. But from my parts or my thoughts just on kind of the week after the weekend, good. I mean, they got their 2 points against the Jets, and then they got 1 point against the Penguins. That's 3 out of 4. Obviously, you would have liked to have seen them get the extra point against the Penguins. That was a winnable game for sure. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna be too upset about 3 out of 4. And you make very valid points about playing back-to-back nights on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. It's beyond me on that one. But
it's like, what are we doing here? Come on.
Like, I digress. But I think that it's what's really encouraging is that you're still seeing it kind of from all over the lineup, right? Yeah, you definitely still see Larkin and Raymond at the top line doing their thing, and they'll take over for shifts and even games. The second line, actually, real quick, speaking of the second line, I want to give Andrew Kopp his flowers real quick because that man has 2 goals and 7 points in his last 10 games. I know that's not like elite or anything like that, but that's pretty darn good. He's been a real good fit with Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane and John Leonard at times on that second line. And we all kind of figured it was going to be Marco Kasper this year. Obviously, he's going through a hell of a sophomore slump. So it's really nice to see Kopp kind of being the veteran to step up and hold that spot down. You can maybe debate about whether or not somebody else would be a better fit or be producing more or whatever. But for the reality we're in, I think Kopp's doing really well. And I think that his fit with those 2 other players is kind of what's contributing to the Red Wings' depth and the fact that they're able to win games on any given night without, the top line dominating every night, basically. You've got JVR producing in the bottom 6. You've got Nate, the young line, Nate Danielson with Marco Kasper. They every now and then will have shifts where they're creating havoc too. You're just seeing it up and down, and I think that it's repeatable. They're not doing anything that I think that's not going to last. They're not getting super lucky. I think that the young talent in their roster, namely Danielson and Casper, have room to grow. I even Marco Casper, going back to last year, he finished stronger than he started, and I could see Danielson having the exact same thing this season. Maybe Casper gets off the schneid at some point. His whatever he's going through right now, he stepped on a heck of a crack, or stepped under a ladder or something. But despite Casper not being the 2 seed, despite the top line isn't dominating every single night, they are still winning games, and it's because they're getting contributions from all over the lineup. They have a Norris caliber defenseman. I think I'm far enough into this campaign that I feel comfortable saying that about Seider. He's having a Norris caliber campaign. That certainly helps. You have Simon Edvinsson really emerging as a bona fide top pairing defenseman as well. That certainly helps. And then, like you said, kind of early on, John Gibson is settling in as well. It feels like everything's kind of coming together at this point in the season. Obviously, the real test is probably going to be that dreaded month of March. If they can even just maintain 500 in March, I feel really good about their chances. But we still got, we're just beginning January, so we have a couple months before we're into the final exam, so to speak, before the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think, and I know I touched on this earlier, is the Simon Edvinsson and the growth of him. When we started the season, I think one of the biggest X factors that you could talk about was if Simon Edvinsson could take that next step in the 25-26 season. And I think he's done that and more. I think we are seeing his value now. And dude, the guy's only 22 years old. He's 22 years old and playing at this kind of level, already taking the top minutes up there with Seider. He's averaging close to 22, 23 minutes a night. Just a beast. And we go back and talking about that Quinn Hughes trade. I'm curious about the mindset is, when you get into the playoffs, do you need these big physical guys that can, and we've seen his physical game grow. And again, 22 years old. Like, that's just crazy to me how young he is. But, him and Seider, they're both like top 20 in block shots. I know Seider's 5th in the league in block shots, 93. Edvinsson ranks 24th with 76. You can't teach height. You can't teach length. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When I watch Simon Edvinsson, it does remind me of a younger Victor Hedman, a less physical Victor Hedman, but a more mobile Victor Hedman. And that's kind of the game I see it. And I think he's further along than Victor Hedman was at age 22. So I'm still you haven't seen really much about the naysayers about that trade not going through because of the Edvinsson thing, but I'm really glad it happened. And by that, I mean, I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm in the mindset that you have, as you said, a Norris caliber defenseman in Morris Seider, who I think projects to probably a more offensively potent version of Chris Pronger. You have Simon Edvinsson, who's only 22 years old, and you have Axel Sandin Pellikka, who's only 20 years old. Now, you have your 3 cornerstone defensemen there. Most teams don't have 3 superstars, potential stars on defense. I think it's safe to say Seider's a star. I think he's a superstar. We've had that conversation before. We're not going to bore you with that again. But when you see the potential of Edvinsson and Pellikka at their ages and what this team's going on the timeline, you can't not be excited. You can't not think that good things are going to happen for this team. And I think a team with Seider, Edvinsson, and Pellikka is a core team, considering their age, that I'd rather have than Seider, Hughes, and Pellikka. If that was true, that Edvinsson had been given up in the deal. That's where I'm at, and especially if you're talking about consistent playoff runs and long-term hockey, you are going to need a body like Simon Edvinsson, his length is a big factor in the game he plays. Him getting sticks on pucks, he's, setting up goals. He does show some offensive capabilities. Again, only 22, so there's always room to grow. That goal against Toronto was dirty. To even try that after, taking an 86-mile-per-hour slap shot off the knee, that would have crippled me for probably 7 years. For him to get back up. I mean, that was scary what he said too to Daniela. He was like,
went numb. Yeah.
I went numb and I couldn't feel my leg. I'm like, I went numb and I wasn't even playing. I think the kid's going to be special. I know it's not, I know we try to, have a more positive attitude, upbeat attitude about the Red Wings. We're not doom and gloomers here, or, calling for people's heads or whatever. But, I gotta say, this was Simon Edvinsson's coming out party week, and I'm just glad that he's still here, and I hope he's here for a long time. Now, having said that, Devin, he is going to be eligible for an extension soon here, and I want your thoughts on an NHL comparable contract for him, because it'd probably be smarter for Yzerman to sign him sooner rather than later, don't you think?
I would say so, and I would also say that this is going to be the part of the show where everyone's going to really realize how much they miss Tony being here, because you got me talking about contracts. But we miss you, Tony. Hope the family's doing well.
Yeah, now we're going to do math because you're gone. Thanks, Tony.
Yep. So 2 contracts kind of stand out to me as comparables, and I ultimately think it maybe falls somewhere in the middle, and even that's maybe a little up for debate, but we'll get into that. Luke Hughes, the contract he actually signed before the beginning of the season, he is signed at $9 million. I feel like that number just sounds right for Simon Edvinsson. I don't know how else to explain it other than like, yeah, that sounds about right. And then the other contract where it's going to be a higher number, and it's the number that where I think about the 9 million I just said that sounds right. And then I also think about, oh yeah, but the cap's like shooting up over the next few years, so it's probably going to be higher than that. Thomas Harley's contract that he recently signed with the Dallas Stars, he's going to be making $10.5 million for a long time. I think somewhere between those 2 contracts, Luke Hughes and Thomas Harley, 9 million, 10.5 million. I think you can make a real strong argument if you're Simon Edvinsson's agent that he should be somewhere in that range. Now, the thing that maybe muddies the water a little bit, and maybe this is like the genius of getting Moritz Seider signed to the deal they got him signed to, but Moritz Seider makes $8.5 million, and I don't know if you can make a compelling argument that Simon Edvinsson should make more than Moritz Seider. There's obviously a lot more factors to the equation than just that, but I know that one of the reasons they got Seider where they got him is because it's a number under Larkin's, and Larkin's at 8.7. So if that really means something to them, then I don't know how they're gonna do it. Maybe they have to go like they have to give him a 5 or 6 year deal versus the full 7 now. But I wouldn't be surprised if Edvinsson's actually lower than this 9 million number I'm looking at. Maybe he gets 8 million, but it's on a slightly lesser term. I don't know that going lesser term makes a whole lot of sense, but in terms of maximizing your salary cap space to then maximize your window to, bring guys in and really build a contender, I could see that. It's going to be interesting. I think Edvinsson's making a very compelling case that he deserves a lot of money, and he's going to get it. And I think you can point to either of the guys that I mentioned and say, I should make that. But I think we'll find out just how ironclad the Red Wings' commitment to having a certain salary cap structure is.
Yeah, I can't. That Toronto game, I couldn't help but think of, I don't know if you remember this, but Matthew Stafford's rookie year when they were facing the Browns and the Lions were going for the game-winning touchdown drive, and NFL Films had him mic'd up, and it was probably one of the most brilliant mic'd ups NFL Films has ever done. And anyway, he gets close. Stafford gets absolutely annihilated on this drive, And when he falls over, he makes this noise. Like it's the noise I would picture if I saw someone dying. He just goes, okay, don't ever ask me to make that face again. But that's what it sounded like because, dude, it was in real time. His shoulder was separated. And the NFL Films is following him to the bench, and he's like, it's out. It's his left shoulder, so it's his non-throwing shoulder. But he gets back up and says, hey, coach, I think Jim Schwartz was the coach at the time. And he gets back up, says, coach, I can go in, I can throw. They're like, no, sit down. He says, no, I can throw, I can do it. And he goes in there, throws the game-winning touchdown pass to Brandon Pettigrew, Lions win. And after he's walking to the bench and people are trying to high-five and grab him, he's like, don't touch it. His shoulder was out. But that's maybe not as dramatic, but that Simon Edvinsson, that's how you endear yourself to the fans in Detroit. Taking a shot like that and then still having, I think a lot of a big percentage of players would have just gone down in a heap right there. But he kept battling and he could barely walk. And as he said, he didn't have feeling in his legs and still blocked another shot with his stick. Again, length coming in, big play there. I don't know. And then scoring the winner, the OT winning goal. I mean, I'm in love, man. I'm in love. Hey, Tony, we're going to shift gears here. Hopefully you're listening because I know you love hearing that one. But USA Olympic rosters came out today, and there were some notable snubs from this one. Devin, would you agree?
I would agree, and I would think maybe the most notable is the guy we were literally just talking about.
Yeah, let me read the forwards off here real quick, just so we can
lay the groundwork.
Give our unbiased opinion on who was snubbed. Matthew Boldy from the Wild, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Jake Gensel, Jack Hughes, Clayton Keller, our captain Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, who's not playing very well, JT Miller, Brock Nelson, Tage Thompson, Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, and the one that's going to bother me the most, Vincent Trocheck. So when you saw this come out this morning, what was your first reaction to it?
Well, not a ton of surprises. I think there had been a lot of reporting in the days leading up to this announcement that kind of foreshadowed a lot of this stuff. I think, I mean, I guess it's to kind of go half full here. It's a great time to be a American hockey fan because the talent, I don't think it's ever been better.
They're a wagon.
It's for real. Like I remember, 2010, and in pretty much every year leading up, every Olympic tournament leading up to 2010, and even a few of them after that, it's like, all right, it's Canada and then everybody else, because Canada is just so overfilled with talent that it's like, all right, how are you going to outcoach them? How are you going to outplay them? Well, now the Americans, it's insane. Like there's, just to kind of get this out of the way, we're definitely going to talk about Alex DeBrincat here and how he's a snub. But then Jason Robertson's a huge snub. Like, if we're talking about goal scorers that should be on the American roster, no offense to the cat, but I think I'm going to pound the table more for Robertson. But I guess to kind of bring this back to the Red Wings here, fantastic for Dylan Larkin, first and foremost. This is going to be his first Olympics representing the red, white, and blue. So good for him. If he plays even half as good as he did in the Four Nations tournament, he's going to play very well. I thought he was a top 3 player for the Americans last year. He definitely could do it again. And for what it's worth, I don't know if Larkin should be wearing the C for the Americans per se, but I don't know if Austin Matthews has done enough this year to have that. But that's neither here nor there. Alex DeBrincat, should he have made the roster? Well, I'm reading this article from ESPN, and they have an interesting statistic here that I was not aware of. Only 5 American players have scored more goals than Alex DeBrincat over the last 3 seasons. That feels significant. Not only just because obviously that's a lot of goals. It's 87 in 206 games. And that's, we just talked about how there's a lot of talent coming out of the States. But also Alex DeBrincat, the last 3 seasons, has not played with, cup caliber teams. He's played with good teams. Don't get me wrong. The Red Wings of the last couple of seasons haven't been bad, but they're just not at that top tier team. So for DeBrincat to be even in the same category as some of the guys ahead of him, it's impressive. Like point blank, it shows a real knack for goal scoring, a real goal scoring talent. And I wonder if, when the Olympics come and we're here and they're starting to play these high intensity games, I'm wondering if they end up finding that they have trouble scoring. I don't know that they will, but it's possible if they're gonna miss having a guy like Alex DeBrincat in the lineup, or a Cole Caulfield for what it's worth, or a Jason Robertson. But listen, like you said, you look at this roster, it's an absolute wagon. I feel like the only way that the Americans are going to disappoint is, just tough matchups. Really, it's talent on talent. And then it's kind of one of those, one of those things where like your team's so talented that like you don't think you have to work. Like they maybe like kind of outplay themselves, that type of thing. But they have the talent, and I would even say the makeup to bring a gold medal to the States.
Yeah, and you can always say the Herb Brooks line too. Like I'm not looking for the best players, I'm looking for the right players, and I think we've seen that meme all over this week. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how it felt like we already knew the rosters like a couple days ago, and all the insiders or whatever reporting. But the U.S. is only bringing 3 different players in that didn't play in the Four Nations, and that was Tage Thompson, Clayton Keller, and Seth Jones. Again, I don't think it's a slight at DeBrincat. I don't think. I think he's smart enough to know that he's a better player than Vincent Trocheck. And I thought I read somewhere today that the reason that Vincent Trocheck was on there because of his chemistry with the JT Miller. That's going to lead the Rangers to a non-playoff spot. But again, I have no problem with these guys not making the roster. And Simon Edvinsson too. We're going to get to him as he was snubbed, but. If this right now, I love Olympic hockey. I love it to death. I love it even more if I don't have to worry about our team players getting hurt there. Red Wings only have Larkin, Sider, Raymond playing in the Olympics. That's it. But if one of those guys went down, oh man, that's just a kick. That's just a kick right in the nuts. And I'm fine with bubble wrapping Edvinsson up. Let him rest. Those shots that he took off the knee that we've been talking about. You can't tell me there's not a welt the size of a freaking, cantaloupe on the side of his leg there. So I'm okay with him not making it. DeBrincat, I mean, there's a good case, but there's a good case for probably like 5 or 6 other players. This team is a wagon. I didn't even read off the defense yet, too, and the defense is pretty sick too. Brock Faber, Noah Hannafin, Quinn Hughes, Seth Jones, Charlie McAvoy, Jake Sanderson, Jacob Slavin, who was a beast in the Four Nations, and Zach Werenski. And then Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman rounded out the goalies. But no, I mean, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. You got to see USA Canada go head to head. You got to have it. And the wonders it'll do just for the game on an international stage. And yeah, I'm not bummed about, DeBrincat or other players not getting to the team. I'd rather have them rest up and be ready for this stretch run that's coming.
Debatable in some instances. I definitely Trocheck's like the one where I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? But I feel like generally speaking, the roster's sound. Like it's going to be very good. Now, from maybe a sentimental standpoint, I want to ask, do you feel maybe a little bummed for Patrick Kane that he doesn't get to represent USA one more time?
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about that a lot too. I think if he had made the club, I think he's smart enough at his age to know that he would kind of been at this point in his career more of like a legendary icon pick, and he would be taking up a spot from someone else who like really deserved to be there more. Obviously, he's older. He's missed some time this season. He's you see a lot of people on Twitter saying he's basically a power play specialist now. I don't always agree with that, but I think this is going to be a fast game over there in Milan, Italy. I'm not sure where he fits in. I think at the point, if you were bringing him in, he wouldn't be playing, significant enough minutes. But I think he'd be a great voice probably in the locker room. But again, he's another guy that, who's battled injuries this year, who's missed time. Leave him home. Patrick Kane's had his glory. He's seen and done it, most everything at all. Obviously not a gold medal, but yeah, I wasn't expecting him to make it, especially after these last 2 months where he's missed time. So I wasn't as bummed about that. And again, hey, they can all sit home.
Not to make this the Sidney Crosby episode, but
yeah,
I feel like that in of itself really speaks to just what caliber of athlete Sidney Crosby is, because we're here like, yeah, Patrick Kane, like, it would have been great, but like realistically, there wasn't a spot for him on that roster. Like, it would have been too fast for him. He probably would have been, an 8 minutes a night kind of guy. It would have been cool, but whatever. And then you look over at Crosby, and there was no way he wasn't going to be on that roster. He's like, and not just like fourth line feel good center who was the captain way back when. No, he's going to be like the second line center. Like, he's still like arguably the second best center coming out of Canada. Like, that dude's insane. But yeah, I don't want to get too deep in the woods on Sidney Crosby, but I think that just shows how crazy good that dude is.
How baffled were you about Simon Edvinsson? I saw so many things on social media today saying that's the biggest snub of all of the snubs in the NHL. I also have to wonder too, the Red Wings have a big influence in Sweden with their Håkan Andersson, their scouting staffs over there. I'm curious if they said, yeah, just don't take him this year, guys. Just leave him at home. We need him to rest up because we're going to need him for this run. And we can't, I got to think he's got a huge welt on his knee right now. I know he's played through it and played fine, but still, I'd rather keep him safe and comfy and cozy at home. Because if you look at some of the defensemen that made that on that roster, it's hard to argue that they're the same type of player, or that Simon Edvinsson is.
And like, it's funny because before the rosters came out, or like immediately when the roster came out, I could almost like dismiss it as like, Simon Edvinsson he doesn't have enough like name brand value to be on that roster yet. But then to see so many people, not just people that like talk about the Red Wings, people from national media saying this, Simon Edvinsson was snubbed. He deserves to be on this roster. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Simon Edvinsson does have some name brand value more than I was giving him credit for, and good on him for it. But ultimately, I'm with you. I think that the thing that Edvinsson has going for him is that, unlike the last decade or so, I feel like the next time the Olympics come around, the NHL will go again. And I think at that point in time, he'll be a slam dunk for that roster, as long as he continues on his current trajectory, of course. But it's obviously a bummer for him. He's certainly played well enough to be on that roster, but I think when he is hopefully powering the Red Wings to playoff games in April, I think he'll be thankful for the extra time off he had in February.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Philip Broberg, Rasmus Andersson, Gustav Forling, Dahlin, Jonas Brodin, Erik Karlsson, Victor Hedman. Yeah, it's hard not to value. It's hard not. It's hard not to put him on that roster. But again, I mean, maybe they went over with veterans, but even Philip Broberg is young. I'm fine with it. Sit him home. Bubble wrap. Just wrap him up. Don't let him go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, it's also probably like an ego thing for some of these guys. Although Simon Edvinsson probably doesn't come off as something like that would bother him. So I think he's earned some much deserved rest, and because the Red Wings are really going to need him for the stretch run.
I'm sure Lucas Raymond will miss having Simon Edvinsson on that blue line, but especially after, coming off of that game against Toronto and just all the things that we've seen him have to endure recently, I think a little rest will go a long way for him.
We're going to go get to news and notes here as we start to get ready to wrap. So, Devin, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I want to highlight a just spending a lot of time talking about Simon Edvinsson and Swedish hockey, want to highlight a Swedish prospect participating in the World Juniors tournament, because can't forget that that's going on right now amongst all the other stuff, national hockey stuff going on right now. Eddie Gemborg, second round pick for the Red Wings in the 2025 draft, scored 2 goals against the United States, was kind of a, excuse the language, but a shit stirrer in that game. He's that's kind of the type of player he is. He likes to muck it up, likes to cause chaos, whether it's with the puck or without the puck. He's been a fun player to watch. He has 2 goals and 6 points in 5 games so far through the tournament for Team Sweden.
Well, you beat me to the shit disturber. You went with shit stir. I was going to say shit disturber, but yes. I'll be honest. Just watching him play, especially in that USA game, all I could envision is a line of him, Marco Kasper, and MBN in the NHL, and maybe the next 3 to 4 years. And wow, that could be like a third line wrecking crew, maybe even top 6, but that could be a wrecking crew. I love the physicality. And speaking of MBN too, he's been playing great down in Grand Rapids as well. He scored again the other night. Yeah, I like his style. I like his play. I like that he likes to get in close and get dirty. That's something that we always talk about. That is something the Red Wings need. And the Red Wings, they love their Swedish players, and I think he's looked good so far. I think Sweden's looked like the best team so far in the World Junior Classic. I mean, those teams are locked and loaded too. I definitely better than Team USA, but yeah, I'm excited about Eddie Gemborg, and I think we'll see him sooner rather than later come over and start with the Griffins.
I would agree, and I look forward to it. I know that the fans in Grand Rapids would respond very well to a player like Gemborg. Now, pivoting to the big game going on tonight, that being the Winter Classic between the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers. Right now, what?
I said fail.
Oh, yeah. sorry. Yeah. That's correct. First and foremost, as of this recording, the Rangers are leading 3-1. We're going to be wrapping this before the end of the game. I have a hunch that nobody listening to this cares a whole lot, unfortunately, because this event is something that, in my opinion, has lost so much prestige in the last 5 to 10 years. It's honestly kind of insane that this. I mean, we were talking off camera, Evan, and I remember, the year they launched it through the first. I mean, probably through 2015, 2016. I remember, that was appointment viewing. I watched every single one. It was a phenomenal event, something that really I felt like brought the NHL to the forefront. And now it's something that, I woke up today, I kind of forgot it was even today. Like it's just kind of it's just another game, and it just kind of happens to be at a different venue. Like I feel. I've never seen a league kind of kill their own premier event the way that the NHL did with this event. Evan, do you have any scolding remarks to make about the Winter Classic?
Oh yeah, here we go. Well, first off, this once they started going overboard with the Stadium Series is when it started to get a little bit watered down. But now you're putting a game in Florida, which is, I guess they're banking on the success of the Panthers and even the Lightning recently to market that game down there. But it's indoors. I mean, you saw all these side by side pictures on social media today of the 2015 Winter Classic at U of M, just the beauty of it, overhead shot of the stadium and playing in that cold weather, and then the side by side of them playing indoors in Miami. It just didn't, it's lost its luster. And let's be real, it has. At the end of the day, these are all money grabs. Part of the problem is, with the new football playoff system, whatever, the amount of teams playing on New Year's Day, that also, hockey plays second fiddle to college football. But yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that they didn't like figure out how to keep this thing, authentic and real. And yeah, it just doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good in Florida. This should always be an outdoor game. I don't even think it necessarily has to be at certain stadiums. Like I thought the one that they did, the outdoor game that they did in Tahoe, I thought that was original and kind of cool. I'd like to see something like a Mystery Alaska kind of thing or something. Or somewhere like beautiful outdoor setting in maybe somewhere up in Canada or somewhere in out west, southwest, somewhere. I don't see Miami in an indoor environment between the Rangers and the Panthers really blowing off the doors. I'm going to be really interested tomorrow to see what the ratings were for this because I have a feeling that they're not going to be very good.
I thought I'm right there with you. I thought that the Lake Tahoe one was kind of like almost like a glimpse into kind of where the event was heading. Like they had done Wrigley Field twice, I think by that point. Or maybe it was Fenway that they had done twice already, but they're already to a point where they're repeating stadiums, basically is where I'm going with that. They've hit all the ones that they really need to hit. And so now it made sense to Lake Tahoe, like you're saying, do unconventional ideas and really get to like the root of like what the event was supposed to be, and they haven't done that. And your point about New Year's Day, I still wrestle with it because I totally get it. It's a harsh reality, but at the end of the day, more people care about football than they do hockey. It's the truth. It is what it is. Anybody who loves the sport of hockey knows that that's a fact. That being said, they are not competing with college hockey today and nobody's watching. So at least when it was New Year's Day, it was a day, like it felt like an event because it's on New Year's Day, and like they had done it on New Year's Day for year after year after year. So you kind of know the Winter Classics today because it's always on New Year's Day. I don't know if you could ask an average hockey fan, what day is the Winter Classic? I don't know the average fan would tell you January 2nd. I really don't. And I think that, to your point, Evan, I think the ratings will tell us that is the case. So if they don't have the excuse of they're competing with college football, they got to figure out how to either market their premier event better, which Lord knows they should already be doing, or they got to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit. Maybe revisit that Tahoe thing because they don't have an excuse for the fact that most hockey fans woke up this morning and did not know that the Winter Classic was being played tonight.
Yeah, I was playing pickleball with a Rangers fan today, who's a pretty diehard Rangers fan, and even she was complaining to me about it. That just didn't feel right on January 2nd, and I thought it was on January 1st, and it's just lost its luster, and that's what it is. But then again, the NHL and marketing are like two assets that don't really have gelled together very well over the past 20 years. The draft this year is brutal. I told you guys about that, what went down in LA, and it was really terrible. But the NHL's got some things to figure out, and this is one of them. If they want to get back to what they had in the early 2000, I went to the one, the 2008 or 9, the one at Wrigley with the Red Wings, unbelievable. Went the next year to the Fenway one, unbelievable. And then they started bringing in these stadium series games. They had one out here in LA at Dodger Stadium, which was okay. I didn't go to that one. I went to one up north, which was like San Jose and the Kings, and that was abysmal. It's it comes down to it's a money grab, and when it comes to money, between money and authenticity, guess which way the networks and the league are going to go. So I mean, you went to the Stadium Series last year with was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was last year with Columbus and Detroit, and I like the setup of that one, how they kind of themed it with the Michigan Ohio State vibe, and I know you had a great time there, but yeah, it's just this is a miss, and the scary thing is, it's like people were saying it's a miss before the game even happened. I did watch a little bit today of them coming in their Miami Vice suits and rolling up in their Ferraris. That just doesn't scream hockey to me,
And I think that's kind of a huge thing too. I think that I don't know what the numbers were for the Stadium Series last season, but I feel like generally speaking, it was well received by the people that did watch it. And I think it's because it was cold. Like I still remember by the time it was the third period was starting, my feet were starting to like shake. It was cold,
Mm-hmm.
and
Part of the
that's hockey.
experience.
It's hockey. Like no, literally, you're playing an outdoor hockey game. You should expect to be cold. It's such a weird thing because we love having these southern markets in the league. Obviously, the state of Florida's had an incredible run in the 2020s when it comes to winning championships. So they certainly have a place in the NHL. But for events like this that are supposed to really showcase the game of hockey, a game that's played on ice, it just does not make sense to play that in Miami. Like in an indoor field. That's why that stadium series game in Columbus worked versus whatever's going down in Florida right now.
2015, there was nothing colder than that Michigan Toronto, or there was nothing colder than that Red Wings Leafs game. My wife was crying and the tears were freezing to her face. We were actually going into the bathroom. There were people like huddling up just because the piss in the fucking troughs was steam warming people up. I saw people getting carried out. And I hate telling people this, but we did leave early because my wife couldn't take it. That and Michigan State was playing in the Rose Bowl that year. So good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, guys. You know what? We did have one more news and note, and I got to say it too, since I'm old. MTV shuts down after 44 years. You know what the last song they played was?
That's a good question. What was it?
Video killed the radio star.
That was
Video
the last
killed
one.
the radio star. I almost said radio killed the video. Yeah. So Bon Voyage MTV, part of our childhood. A little bit of part of our childhood is now retired and gone away, and there's a little bit of part of me that's kind of still sad about it. But good times with MTV. Anyway. On the docket, the Red Wings will host the Penguins back at home on Saturday with a noon matinee at the LCA. Then it's off to Ottawa to play the Senators on Monday, January 5th, before heading back home, take on the Vancouver Canucks on Thursday, the 8th. We'll be back with a new episode on Friday. Happy New Year's, everyone. Great year. 2025 is gone. Very excited to see what 2026 brings for the Flying Octopus podcast. We got a lot of content coming up here, so stick around with us. And on that note, Devin, Happy New Year's, buddy.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.